The last talk was pertaining to sweetness in ibadah. And of course, that not only affects the ibadah itself, but it affects one's entire life. However, this talk is about bringing inner peace and tranquility into one's entire life. There's many factors to consider when it comes to seeking inner peace and happiness in life from an Islamic perspective. However, I can summarize the key to achieving inner peace in one word, and that's Tawheed. Tawheed is the Jannah of this dunya. Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah ta'ala said, أهل السعادة هم أهل التوحيد. The people of happiness are the people of Tawheed, the ones who embrace Tawheed. And that happiness is for both dunya and akhirah. The level of your Tawheed and how strong it is will determine how much peace and comfort and contentment you will feel in your heart in this dunya. It's a Quranic principle. ما أصاب من مصيبة إلا بإذن الله ومن يؤمن بالله يهدي قلبه. No calamity befalls anyone except by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَمَن يُؤْمِن بِاللَّهِ يَهْدِ قَلْبَهُ. وَمَن يُؤْمِن, one who believes. Believes in what? In Tawheed. What do they get? يَهْدِ قَلْبَهُ. Allah will guide their hearts. Calamities befall everyone, Muslim and Kafir alike. But there's a specialty for those who believe in Tawheed. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't say, and whoever believes in Tawheed will be free of trials and hardships. He didn't say that in this verse, nor in any other verse. He said he will rightly guide their hearts, meaning in the most difficult times, their hearts will find tranquility and calmness. And they'll be comforted and reassured, as Ikrimah rahimahullah ta'ala mentioned. Allah instills a sense of inner peace and contentment in the hearts of the believers in Tawheed. And likewise, He closes and constricts the hearts that have no Tawheed, as if they were climbing up to the sky, as the verse states, وَمَن يُرِدْ أَن يُضِلَّهُ يَجْعَلْ صَدْرَهُ ضَيِّقًا حَرَجًا كَأَنَّمَا يَصَّعَّدُ فِي السَّمَاءِ. Through Tawheed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala filled the hearts of those who came before us with immense joy in this dunya. Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah ta'ala mentioned that some in the past stated that they felt so much joy in this dunya, so much that they believed that if the inhabitants of Jannah experienced a fraction of the joy they experience in this dunya, then the inhabitants of Jannah are living in a state of bliss. These people weren't rich. They definitely faced a lot of challenges in their lives. They lived in poverty and they dealt with tough times, but they found great joy through their strong belief in Tawheed. Wealth and palaces wasn't what made their dunya so pleasurable. Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah ta'ala quotes some of them as saying, we're living in such pleasure and happiness that if the kings and their heirs knew about it, they would fight us for it with their swords. With Tawheed, their hearts danced with joy. Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah ta'ala faced a multitude of challenges, as we all know. He faced hardships throughout his life, despite being imprisoned and enduring various trials. He felt as if he's living in a Jannah on this earth. And that Jannah was in his heart. No one could take it away. Ibn al-Qayyim recounts that his teacher Ibn Taymiyyah, rahimahumullah ta'ala jami'a, Ibn Taymiyyah told him once, what harm can my enemies do to me? What harm can my enemies inflict upon me? My Jannah is in my heart. He's the one who said, in this dunya exists a Jannah. Those who don't enter the Jannah of this dunya won't enter the Jannah of the Akhirah. It's incredible how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives some of His servants a sneak peek of Jannah before they actually meet Him. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opens the doors of Jannah for some in this dunya so they can experience its joy, and that motivates them to work hard and chase after the Jannah of the Akhirah. Tawheed is what infuses joy into the most challenging moments of life. How? Let me give a closer example, closer to home. So no one will say these are men who are in the past and they're different. Our family, my family, faced and we continue to face challenges that only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows about and only He can alleviate. Some of it is public, but most of it not many know about. My father, may Allah give him a long life full of deeds, maintained a sense of joy throughout every single one of our trials. Whether it was imprisonment or threats or raids or trials or losses of lives or illnesses, all throughout them and in the midst of them, he remained one of the happiest people, if not the happiest person you can see. His resilient spirit, his cheerful disposition remained unwavering, always in strong spirit, always in a cheerful demeanor. Allahumma barik lahu. In the midst of his struggles, he had a wide open heart, worrying about helping others, giving da'wah to others. The initial government search or raid, which was more than 2 decades ago, it was very surprising and shocking and unexpected. And it was followed by a series of dozens upon dozens of other raids throughout the years. During raids, during trials, in solitary confinement in prison cells, in illnesses, in various other hardships, he remained completely unfazed. This is not my observation, but rather one can ask the thousands who visit or visited him, or those who studied and study under him, or those who communicate with him. Most, if not all of them, are familiar with his renowned statement that he tells everyone about being the happiest man alive on this planet. He shares this sentiment with everyone. And by Allah, the creator of the 7 heavens, he genuinely, actually feels this happiness. He entered the Jannah of this dunya, insha'Allah, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant him the Jannah of the Akhirah. In happy and in sad times, his face has the brightness of delight. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant him the nadrat al-na'im of the Akhirah as well. Do you think he or those of the past who felt this way don't have or didn't have difficulties? I know many people who lost a loved one and they were traumatized for life. I know many who didn't get a battalion breaking down their doors at 6 a.m. dozens of times, but rather they got a simple visit by an agent and they were traumatized and changed their entire life. The people we're talking about feel joyful through their tawheed. They feel Jannah on this earth despite the hardships that they face and despite the lack of luxury and comfort in their lives. When I would be distressed, and I mentioned this more than 10 years ago, seeing him and hearing his words would lift my spirits, and it would turn anxiety into relief and strength and certainty and peace. In the most difficult times in prison, in the prison cell, he would tell me, وَلِلَّهِ غَيْبُ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَإِلَيْهِ يُرْجَعُ الْأَمْرُ كُلُّهُ. To Allah belongs the ghaib, the unseen, the heavens, in the heavens and in the earth. And to him returns, he would ask me, half the affairs? 1/3 of the affairs? I would obviously correct his intentional mistake and say, kullu, all of it, all the affairs return to Allah. The verse has grammatical, linguistic affirmations to emphasize that all affairs return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So put your trust in Allah. That's tawheed. Allah said to him returns all the affairs. Kullu. Turn to the one who all the affairs return to and be happy with what he decrees. When I used to brainstorm and reflect on the oppression and consider the violations of what contradicts their own cursed, flawed laws, he would advise me to take it easy. He said, don't think about anything, relax. وَلَوْ شَاءَ رَبُّكَ مَا فَعَلُوهُ. Had it not been Allah's will, they wouldn't have done it. When there were trials and dates and judgments coming up, he would always remind us the judgment is not in anyone's hands. It's not in any human hands. The judgment is from Allah. وَاللَّهُ يَحْكُمُ لَا مُعَقِّبَ لِحُكْمِهِ. His decision is the one that can be replaced or appealed or repealed or intercepted or reversed or stopped. The point of mentioning my father is to point out that what provided him with joy and comfort during hardships was Tawheed. What he imparted to me to achieve that same comfort was Tawheed. When he says, وَلِلَّهِ غَيْبُ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَإِلَيْهِ يُرْجَعُ الْأَمْرُ كُلُّهُ وَلَوْ شَاءَ رَبُّكَ مَا فَعَلُوهُ وَاللَّهُ يَحْكُمُ لَا مُعَقِّبَ لِحُكْمِهِ. Those are among the so many verses in proof on the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the qualities of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, among other tawheedic aspects that bring comfort and serenity to an individual's heart. One of the scholars from the past came across a man who seemed very troubled. He seemed very worried. The Sheikh said, I'm going to ask you 3 questions on Tawheed. Answer them. The man said, go ahead. The Sheikh asked, he said, is there anything in this universe that happens without Allah's will? The man said, absolutely not. He's teaching him Tawheed. It brings comfort and joy to know and believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in control of everything and that no one can help or harm without Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's will. The lessons that the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam shared with his cousin, his young cousin, while he was still a young boy, are uplifting. They bring happiness and comfort to every believer in Tawheed, regardless of their struggles. And most importantly, they strengthen one's iman. He taught young Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma Tawheed, to be mindful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and that Allah will protect him. He said, be mindful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you will find him in front of you. He taught him that if the nation, if the world, if the globe were to gather in order to benefit you, they will not benefit you except with that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has already prescribed for you. And if they were to gather, the world, the globe, with all their might and power, if they were to gather to harm you, they will not harm you except with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had already prescribed for you. If a marriage doesn't go through, if it's loss of wealth you're struggling with, if it's a promotion you didn't get, an illness or death of a loved one, or threats of harm that you're going through, remember what he taught Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma. And he taught him that what passes you by, that whatever you failed to attain, wasn't going to befall you. And what has befallen you wasn't going to pass you by. He taught him that success and victory comes through patience. The scholar then asked the second question on Tawheed. He said, can anything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has decreed for your provision be taken away? The man said, no, that's Tawheed. Part of Tawheed is to believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the provider and that a person's sustenance is determined before they were on this earth, before they were in their mother's womb. وَفِي السَّمَاءِ رِزْقُكُمْ وَمَا تُوعَدُونَ. No one can take it away. The scholar then asked the third question, is it possible for your lifespan to be reduced by even a single moment than what has already been decreed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? The man said, absolutely not. Lifespans and destinies are under the control of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When the time comes for someone to leave this dunya, there's nothing they can do to stay, no matter how hard they try. وَلَن يُؤَخِّرَ اللَّهُ نَفْسًا إِذَا جَاءَ أَجَلُهَا. Allah will not delay a soul when its time has come. If it's not their time yet, a person won't die, regardless of the challenges or dangers that they encounter or the situations they find themselves in. And the examples on that are plenty from the past and the present. The Shaykh was trying to teach him that if nothing happens but by the will of Allah, if no one can increase or decrease your provision and your life but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, why would you be worried? He told that individual, now tell me, explain to me, why are you worried? The point is, the stronger a Muslim's tawheed is, the stronger their trust in Allah is, the more peace they will feel in their hearts. Islam teaches other secondary factors that contribute to achieving joy and inner peace in this dunya. However, I highlighted the fundamental and most significant one, which is tawheed. We can explore other factors in the future, inshallah. I started with a promise from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَمَن يُؤْمِن بِاللَّهِ يَهْدِ قَلْبَهُ. And I'll leave you with another promise. مَنْ عَمِلَ صَالِحًا مِنْ ذَكَرٍ أَوْ أُنْثَى وَهُوَ مُؤْمِنٌ فَلَنُحْيِيَنَّهُ حَيَاةً طَيِّبَةً. Whoever does good while وَهُوَ مُؤْمِن, while he believes in what? Believes in tawheed. فَلَنُحْيِيَنَّهُ حَيَاةً طَيِّبَةً. Promise from Allah to those who meet those stipulated conditions. وَهُوَ مُؤْمِن. Tawheed is a fundamental principle and condition. What does he get? Hayatan tayyibah. He will be blessed with a happy life, inner peace, contentment, provision, and everything else good. Hayatan tayyibah is for a muwahhid who believes in tawheed. The Quran instills a sense of peace in the heart of the believer in tawheed that cannot be shaken by the people of the globe. The Quran wants the believer in tawheed to be optimistic and content in every situation, no matter how bad it gets. Believing in tawheed means to keep at the forefront of your mind that if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with you, never worry who or what is against you. Hayatan tayyibah. That's in this dunya, because the next portion of the verse pertains to the reward in the akhirah. وَلَنَجْزِيَنَّهُمْ أَجْرَهُمْ بِأَحْسَنِ مَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. Wallahu a'lam. We'll conclude with this. Wallahu a'lam. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم.